The following program is an exclusive DisruptionNetworks.com production.
Hey, Mr. Lindsay, what's that?
That's a radio, boy.
Yeah, what's it do?
Don't you know what a radio is, boy?
Well, sure, but I've never seen one like that before.
You've got a real attitude problem.
What we've got here is failure to communicate.
I want the truth! You can't handle the truth!
So, you're a philosopher?
Yes. 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 Yes.
Then tell me, who's president of the United States?
Donald John Trump.
The actor?
You take drugs, Danny? Every day. Good. So what's the problem?
Chicks dig me. Because I rarely wear underwear, and when I do, it's usually something unusual.
Tits and ass, 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 bloody blue, bloody blue, bloody blue, bloody blue!
Get the fuck out of here.
315 and beyond, we are live. Welcome to another episode of Back Talk. Got my man Z sitting in here with me on a frigid Tuesday morning.
I feel you're the cult of personality, pal.
Yeah, the cult of personality, living color. Little blast from the past. It's a great song.
I got to mention to all the listeners, go ondemand.com, check out EC Radio, and you can check out my interview with Corey Glover from Living Color.
That's
I had
right. That was recent.
Ago. It was a great interview.
Great interview.
Great interview. I had to throw my plug in there.
That's all right. That's what we're here for on a D.
How you doing, bro?
Doing good this morning, man. Doing good.
Feeling good?
Feeling good, man. Feeling good. Ready to tackle this Tuesday.
Got to mention we are live on Twitch right now. We're
That's
live
right.
on YouTube. We're live on DisruptionNetworks.com.
Right.
We're live on the D phone app. We're all over the place.
All over the place. The D is hard and erect across the continental United States.
I love when you say erect.
That's right. We are ready. We are ready. A lot to talk about this morning. Some comedy. I had a guest stand me up, but that's okay. It happens.
It happens, man.
It happens.
Shit happens.
We're going to reschedule. My man Tom Moore is going to come in, introduce us to some of his comedy stylings. He had a little vehicle trouble this morning.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, he had his vehicle was backfiring on him.
Yeah.
So,
speaking of comedy, big ups to our boy Phil Farder for the Comedy Cup
this past weekend.
It was awesome. Absolutely awesome. Hilarious. Everybody that went up on stage was
three local winners,
hysterical.
Right?
There was the number one guy was a local guy, Brendan McGurk, a West Winfield guy.
Nice.
So he's a local guy, and the other one guy was from Syracuse, and the other one was from Rochester. So
okay,
regional,
nice,
hysterical,
nice, man. I wish I could have made it.
It was a good time, man. You were missed.
Yeah, I gotta next one, I gotta hop on there and. We had some family obligations and a couple things, and as I was telling you off air, I had a few interactions on Saturday.
You did good.
It was a good night. But jumping into, got a lot of news this week.
Yeah.
45 endorsing a pedophile. I don't know if that came to any shock to anybody.
How about 45 with his Thanksgiving presentation to the indigenous? Did you see that? Mr. Pocahontas.
I did. Yeah. One thing at a time.
I'm sorry.
One thing at a time. I was still trying to register the fact that I've been paying close attention to the polls, of course, in Alabama. Mm-hmm. I don't like to disparage anybody purposely and maliciously, but, if it's going to stay this close, I'm just going to come out and say it. I mean, the people in Alabama, you got some problems. Just the mere idea that this guy could be guilty of that kind of sexual misconduct and pedophilia with 14-year-old girls and the amount of women that's up to 9, 10 at this point. Just the idea of having that man in office should be enough for voters to say, if the implication is there, got to back away. We can't support somebody like that. But yet, 46% of Alabamians still support him. And we have the President of the United States.
Got a purty mouth.
And he's openly endorsing him. Openly endorsing him. And he tried to back off at this last 24 hours, but he already came out. What
did he say?
Well, he said he didn't do it. He said he wasn't him. Well, okay, so, let's let the people of Alabama decide, okay? Gotta let them decide.
Come on, man. Come on. Trump is despicable, is the only word that I can come up with.
An embarrassment.
He's an abysmal failure on top of being an embarrassment. But that kind of, he gives me endless material. Endless material.
True.
Last night, he took a stab at Elizabeth Warren by calling her Pocahontas, while he was supposed to be honoring the Native American code talkers. So that's what he was supposed to be doing.
Right.
While in front of a picture of Andrew Jackson, who is responsible for the Trail of Tears. Now, if that wasn't a clear-cut message, subliminally, I don't know what is. But, of course, everybody in his base, they just ignore that. And they applaud the attack on Elizabeth Warren right in front of a Native American that he's supposed to be honoring. Listen, it's concerted, and it's done for his base.
Yeah.
But it's disturbing. It's disturbing. And it was set up right in front of a picture of Andrew Jackson, by the way. Conveniently. Now, this, when he gets up there and it's like if you went to a daycare center and you pulled out like a toddler, around 5-6 years old, and said, look, we're going to take you up to the podium and we're going to give you an Etch-a-Sketch and we're going to give you a little bit of guidance and like little flashcards with fish on them and the ABCs. That's what Trump is to me. That's what he represents to me. There's nothing complicated or sophisticated about anything that he says or does, ever. His pressers are like it's. I need a lobotomy and like fucking electroshock therapy afterwards, just listening to him. At first I felt a little bit bad when he was speaking in his press conference after the Asia tour, and I call it a tour because that's what he does. He gives himself a hand job every time he gets back from, a diplomatic, visit to a different country. And it's amazing to me. It's amazing to me how his base will sit there and say, this guy's doing a great job. Doing a great job. Doing a great job of what? Separating the country and making us a complete embarrassment? Because that's what we are at this point.
Oh, absolutely.
We're just nothing but an embarrassment.
Yep.
I see news this morning that MTV is reviving the original cast of Jersey Shore, and bringing it back. And it's not needed. We have this. It's not even needed anymore.
Right.
And who wants to see Pauly D? Yeah, it's old news. This is literally...
Did you watch
Of course not. No, it's insulting to Italian Americans. It's insulting.
I never watched any of it either.
It's insulting.
It was after my time,
It was never my time.
Right.
And I consider myself to be not even close to fully evolved. I'm still dragging my knuckles completely. And nothing that I find entertaining about that. The blowout haircuts, the fake muddled tans, just the absolute yard apes that they acted like. We have that right now in the White House.
The overdone Brooklyn accent.
Oh, of course. That Bay Ridge blowout thing. I've seen it all. Poor depiction of Italian Americans in my eyes.
I agree.
But I don't want to get too old school when it comes to that stuff, because there is people that enjoy it. And I'm sure people are going to be very excited about that there's a reviving of that. But again, I don't think it's needed. We have this absolute chimp in the White House. So it's not needed. Really isn't needed. And everything he does, you have the White House press secretary, Sarah Huckabee, and she defends everything. And, the people in the press, his attack on the Fourth Estate, everything is just... It seems surreal to me. I wake up in the morning and I check the news, and I'm mortified. I'm like, this can't be real life. I feel like Neo. I feel like I'm moving slowly through the Matrix. And it just doesn't feel like this could be really reality. Like, this is America. This is like, and we have 3 more years of this, and possibly 4 after that. Imagine that. Let it resonate.
There's no way he wins another
No, don't
election.
say that. Don't say that, because I'm telling you, I wholeheartedly believe, as much as it pains me, that he's going to be around for 8 years.
Oh, don't say that. 8
years. Just to completely rip this country to shreds and divide us all. Because he's doing a great job. He's doing a great job. And I used to have a system when I had a political debate and I was having discussions with Trump supporters. Now it's gotten to the point where it's become absolute comedy to me.
Yeah.
Like, I don't even get upset anymore when it's not even an argument with them anymore. I'm like, you guys you're a very special breed. It reminds me of Planet of the Apes. Yes, I'm being that insulting. I have to be at this point. Because if anybody, like, to me, anybody lucid and intelligent, like an adult, anybody lucid and intelligent that's still supportive of this man and thinks that he's, like, sophisticated and he's an intellect and he's a man of honesty and integrity, you got to have fucking problems if you think that. You really do. And if you think he's actually, name something. 315-505-8433. We're here live on the D. Let me know what you think that he's done in these 10 months. Because it's nothing.
Nothing. He's golfed.
He's
played a lot of golf.
Okay, we'll get to that in 1 second.
Well, that's part of the show prep today.
Listen, I'm going to tell you something. I'm glad that you mentioned that.
You're going to bring up all his old scores?
I am. This was brought to my attention, and thank you for reminding me of that, because I trailed off for a minute. The other day, I came across one of the news stories that floats across my phone, get the notifications from all the major news outlets and everything like that. So I get this alert on my phone, and it says that Trump is going to be planning meetings from Mar-a-Lago again, while he's not. Now he said, I'm just not going to be golfing this week. I got big important things to do just besides golfing, okay? Okay? Got to talk to some world leaders, and we're going to do some governing and some golfing, okay? So just be prepared. I know I'm golfing, but, there's going to be some things going on, too. So this guy, it got me thinking. I said to myself, okay, there was a constant attack and a very calculated attack for 8 years on Obama. We don't have a leader in the White House. That's what you heard for 8 years. We don't have a leader. All he does is golf on a taxpayer's money. 8 years, Obama caught his trips, whether it was golfing or personal vacations. 98 million, just under 100 million in 8 years' time.
It's still a lot.
Yeah, it is.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it is.
It's absolutely ridiculous.
Absolutely ridiculous.
$98 million worth
No.
these fucking vacations.
Absolutely. On our hard work dime. On our hard working, a dime, every one of us.
$98 million.
$98 million.
Think about where that money can go.
Right. Now, Trump, in 10 months, $270 million.
Uh-huh.
He just golfed last weekend for the 75th time.
And this guy is a
in
billionaire
10 months.
himself. He can support his own fucking vacations.
10 months. $270 million in 10 months. So he's
absurd.
He's doubled what Obama did in 8 years.
Yeah.
In 10 months. Now imagine 4 to 8 years. Imagine that. Extrapolate that. Let that resonate. Just imagine that.
These are the
And yet his base is like, no big deal. No big deal.
Well, I'll go
But
to security.
yeah. Listen, the allocated funding that they had for the Secret Service is bankrupted. He blew through it. They spent over $67,000 on golf cart rentals. This is where we are. He's just golfing like a sloth.
I just spend $67,000 on golf carts.
Secret Service. I mean, he's got to have, his entourage. He's got to be protected because he's the president of the United States.
What's that, about 700 golf carts? I mean,
it's unimaginable. I couldn't.
We rent golf carts at Mowdown every year, and there's probably 50 of them. They're
right.
$57,000. So,
but to think about this stuff, when you actually sit down and you go through the numbers, it's like it's unfathomable to imagine that you have a president. You look at the expenditures that we talked about with Obama, and $98 million in 8 years, and you're like, wow, just that number just stands out to you, and you're like, that's ridiculous.
It is.
That we have our elected officials, just on our dime, having these extravagant vacations and going golfing, this is that, whatever. But then you compare it to just a mere 10 months in the fact that it's $270 million, because each one of his trips to Mar-a-Lago cost $3.6 million. With all of the expenditures as far as Secret Service, him being protected, the travel, everything. That's amazing to me.
It blows me away.
It's amazing to me. 75 times. This is the guy that campaigned. Everything is accessible to everybody that's on Google, that's on YouTube, all of our watchers that are paying close attention to Donald John Trump. Go through his complete campaign and how many times he said over and over again that I'm not going to be golfing. I'm always going to be in Washington. I got too much to do. Where am I going? Where am I going? I got too much to do. And he is golfed 75 times since he's been in office.
Didn't he golf with Tiger Woods over the weekend?
No, he's going to be golfing with Tiger Woods.
Oh, he's going to be.
Yeah. Yeah. Another excuse.
Yeah.
And it's just, again, it's unfathomable to me.
Like, how does that make headlines, though? Like, he's going to golf with
At
Tiger
this
Woods.
point, you know what it is. Literally everything that involves him, whether it's in a negative connotation now or positive, it draws media coverage. And that's why I try to tell people you shouldn't be taking too much credence into the stories that you see with like LeVar Ball, Eminem, other celebrities or athletes that come into the forefront. If he doesn't drag them in personally himself, if they use his name, they're doing it for a reason. They know that it's going to generate media coverage and it's going to make them relevant. Mm-hmm. Like, people were in an uproar about the LeVar Ball thing.
Right.
And what they don't realize is the dichotomy there is there's really no difference between those two guys except for the social standings that they had and economic standings that they had. They're really the same type of dynamic. They're really the same type of guy. Boisterous, outspoken, say what's on their mind very bluntly. So they're like voracious characters, and that's like that shock jock type of thing. You know what I'm saying? Like when Howard Stern introduced himself to the American public and they were used to more conservative radio. Uh-huh. This is what you're getting in politics and in the media coverage right now is this attack on what's PC.
Right.
What's politically correct. So you guys you have guys like LeVar Ball that are going to say, look, I have my brand, the Triple B brand. He's only making himself relevant by dragging Trump into a discussion. And then they have a Twitter battle like teenagers. and you sit back as an American and say to yourself, this is really how low we've gotten.
This is the president of the United States.
The president of the United States is just randomly having arguments with athletes and fathers of athletes and attacking celebrities. And it's amazing to me that his base applauds that. The sanctity of the White House has been completely soiled. And nobody looks at that in his base and says, okay, that's enough for me. If I was a hardcore, staunch Republican or even a Trump supporter, when he finally endorsed Roy Moore and did it openly and he did it publicly, openly and publicly endorse a pedophile. And like I said to open up the show, even the implication that he's a pedophile. The president, let that resonate. The president of the United States is endorsing a pedophile. And forget about the myriad of different accusers that there's been on his own front, where there's been 16 accusers. In his world, he's been repeatedly accused of sexual misconduct. Mm-hmm. The Access Hollywood tape. I mean, you had his ex-wife that accused him of rape. He settled multiple civil suits. And the outrage is people on both sides call for this one to be fired You have an outrage when you hear the stories about Harvey Weinstein, Kevin Spacey, Charlie Rose, the latest,
Al Franken.
Al Franken, this one, that one. I mean, the stories keep going and going and going and going with different actors and, political analysts and journalists. And it's amazing. People that are actually in government. Look, what is the standard and the norm as far as what punishment should be for any one of them? Once an accuser comes forward, I don't care if it's left or right, Al Franken, Roy Moore, that doesn't matter to me. Every one of them should step down, starting with Donald Trump. This is government.
Right.
This is government. These are the people that are representatives of our nation.
For the people, by the people.
They're our spokesmen. And it's okay to have a pedophile in office? Look, I know all the old jokes and the adages and, the little slander that goes on about down south and, what's good for Alabamians and stuff like that. And that's, the inbred type of things, the jokes that are made. But all jokes aside, man.
Squeal, boy!
All jokes aside.
Squeal!
All jokes aside. 14-year-old daughter I have. She's going to be 15. Okay? Now, just thinking about a man that is in a position of power. What if he did that to my daughter? Or if you had a child and it was your daughter? For somebody's sister? It's just, that's unfathomable to me.
Okay.
This is government. There should be a higher standard, and that's gone. That is gone.
That's been gone.
No, but I mean, it left us when he got elected.
Absolutely,
yeah. And that part is solely him to blame. And 63 million Americans that signed up for that. What did they think they were getting? Is my question that nobody seems to want to answer. I get this idea in this ruse that the campaign went through for a year and a half, that he was some sort of anti-establishment machine, hell-bent on the destruction of Washington and its foundation, and this attack on, the regular style government of lobbyists and special interests, the Clintons, that sort of, style of government traditional government that we were used to. But he's done all of the same. He's done all of the same. So he didn't drain the swamp. He stocked it with extra alligators.
Yeah.
There's still lobbyists. I thought Obama had a lot. Still lobbyists. Still special interests. Still Wall Street. The swamp is still stocked and full.
Yep.
And these are all things that he made.
Now he's stocking it with pedophiles.
Yeah, and that's just, when do we, from a moral standpoint, say that we've had enough? I understand that, obviously, Trump supporters, that's my question directly to them. I understand that that's their guy, but when does it become a point of recognizing morality? Simple morality. When does that come into fruition in the discussion? Because for me, I mean, having a moral compass is important. It's important. I mean, think about that. If you were just an everyday voter in Alabama, and one of the candidates, there's going to be a write-in, so there's going to be 3 candidates. You're going to the polls in Alabama. I don't care if you're the result of incest. If you're going to the polls and somebody's saying, look, we got one guy here that was trying to fuck 14-year-old girls and countless, acts of misconduct.
Ridiculous.
Groping women, sexually harassing them, and then you have 2 other opponents. I don't care if it's Republican or Democrat on the other side. Just don't choose him. To me, it's not about the R or the D next to their name. It's about doing the right thing. It's about morality. It's about what we stand for in this country. So if you don't want to elect a Democrat in Alabama, then you pull the lever for the write-in. But how do you still support at this point Roy Moore? And then on the other end, because it's not one-sided with me, if more of these stories keep pouring out about Al Franken, and he was guilty of misconduct, and he was doing things that were disparaging and demeaning to women, exit your seat. That's how I feel about it. You have to be held to a higher standard.
Has Roy Moore done anything positive in the Alabama community, in his state? What's the positive about
Well, I mean,
having
listen,
him?
as far as Alabamians are concerned, he has a long-standing tenure of, I think it's 30 to 40 years of political lineage in Alabama.
It's time for him to go.
Right, but here's the thing, though.
I feel like when 30, 40 years, they've been robbing us and milking us for way too long. It's time that, you know.
Listen, I wholeheartedly agree with you, but you have to understand something, and this just is not an issue when it comes to like down south or, you know, geography and just a specified demographic. It's government in general. When people have an elected official that has been around for as long as a Roy Moore, or some of the elected officials that you have in Washington, I call them political fossils because they've been around for so long that people actually have that feeling of comfort. They're content with somebody that had that sort of political history and that sort of lineage in their communities.
I think there should be some kind of law against somebody past 10 years.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Term limits.
Term limits, thank you.
Right, and here's the thing, though. At this point, this goes to the other damaging aspect of what I was going to talk about today, which is really important, especially for us here at the D. We're in the infancy, of starting something here. Okay? We're on YouTube and Twitch and doing our local thing here and beyond, you know, nationally. His attack on the Fourth Estate is the reason why a Roy Moore is able to still campaign, and he's campaigning right now in Alabama on the pretext that he's saying, look, this is just nothing more than a leftist attack, and it's fake news. See, they've all taken this narrative that Trump has given them with his attack on the Fourth Estate, and they're running with it. So if you have any sort of indiscretions as a politician now, you get to say, look, this is nothing but a smear campaign from the other side. You know, this is, they're all lies. And people are like, okay, refute that then. If your accusers are all lying, give us the proof and come out. You're the candidate. Come out and refute it. Which he hasn't done. Which he has not done. And the accusers keep coming. Then you have the president endorsing him. I mean, with that endorsement right there and his attack, it's concerted. He has taken to Twitter over the last 48 hours, Trump, and made a concerted effort as the president of the United States to tell people to no longer support CNN and other mainstream media outlets other than Fox News. Just Fox News is important and vital to the United States. But CNN, CBS, NBC, MSNBC, they're all fake news. That's damaging, and it's scary. It's scary, and it's very calculated, what he's doing. And his base listens, and they believe it. They believe it.
He's like David Koresh.
Get this guy an acoustic guitar. That was a brilliant, brilliant comparison. Get him. He's like Manson-esque. He really is. Get him an acoustic guitar and let him fucking sit in front of a campfire with these fucking people. Because it really is at that point. It's like Waco shit. It really is. You know what? I can't believe that you just said that. That is fucking great. Because if you got all the Trump supporters together, if he wanted to rally them right now, he could really bring them to like Spawn Ranch and have them sit around a campfire. He really could. And they would fucking, sip the juice, man. They would. They'd just sit there with them.
Drink the grape Kool-Aid.
Yes, man. They would sip the fucking juice. They listen to everything that he says. And this love affair with a 71-year-old man, this terracotta-hued, I call him a sod porpoise. That's what I call him, because he's a sloth, gelatinous piece of shit is what he is. Plain English. That's exactly what he is. And this idea, this notion that his supporters, they keep coming on. We see it on social media. You see it every day. He's the best president ever. How many times have you seen that?
So many times.
Now, let's break that down really quick, piece by piece. You're saying, I'm speaking directly to the Trump supporters right now that say that, make that claim. He is the best president in American history. How would you even base that upon the fact that we have 10 months of him being in office? You're going to compare a guy that's been there for 10 months to people that have been in there for 8 years or 4 years? Multiple term presidents? He doesn't have enough done. There's not enough evidence to make that statement. Simply put right there. That's such an asinine, nonsensical statement because you don't have enough evidence. You don't have you don't have that there to make a statement like that. What is it based upon? It's nothing factual, nothing tangible that he's done. It's been 10 months. Could you make that claim? That's number one. That goes to show you the kind of blind faith and the kind of blind following that he has from his support group and his base, because it's really based upon nothing. It's based upon promises. I saw this morning when I woke up, I saw a thing about on our buddy Matt Major, one of Matt Major's posts. Matt said, please explain when you guys say that he's done more in 10 months than people have done in 8-year terms or the previous administration. Please explain what you're talking about. And it's always crickets right after that. And then somebody came up and immediately said, well, I'm going to revert back. I'm going to give you Foxconn. That deal's been in the works since 2012. 2012. The promises were made since 2012. And by the way, if you do a little bit of deep research into Foxconn, their production, done by robots. It's done by robots. Okay? These are promises.
I don't even know what Foxconn is, so.
These are promises. These are jobs that are supposed to come to Wisconsin and different states.
Oh, yeah.
And, different cell phone manufacturers and electronic manufacturers, different things like that. Now,
kind of like how we're waiting for Nano over here.
Exactly. Great point. But making a promise for actual jobs, okay, that is simple math. You either see the production and have actual jobs, or you're making promises to bring jobs in, and there's a clear-cut difference there. Trump is making a lot of promises to people, but nothing's happened. 10 months, nothing's happened. Now, they want to continue to have the same narrative all the time. Well, he's getting so much opposition. Now, think about that as a Trump supporter, if you're a Trump supporter. He ran on the Republican side, the Republican ticket. He's getting opposition from his own party. His own party. He's getting opposition from, of course, from Democrats, but Republicans as well. And one piece of legislation after the next keeps failing to get through. And then this tax cut thing. Everything is just detrimental. If you really, really break it down and look at it, it's detrimental. But yet his base, still in love. This adoration that they have for him. Just absolutely in love with the guy.
He's the Messiah.
Yeah, and you know what it is? I've said it over and over again. He speaks to the worst of what America is.
True.
There's a lot of beautiful things about this country. There's a lot of wonderful things about this country. There's a lot of bad things about this country, too. Mm-hmm. And he speaks to the worst of it. He brings out the bigot in people. He brings out the misogynist in a person. He brings out the xenophobia in a person. And that's what a lot of his base is, that core of that base. That's why he does things like have those press conferences and have those ceremonies in front of a picture of Andrew Jackson. It's concerted Bannon might not be next to him, Steve Bannon, in the White House, but he's still in his ear. So Steve Bannon, that Breitbart over there, is making every bit of his presence felt in the West Wing. 100%. Those are very concerted in systematic things that you're seeing right there. When he's standing on a podium in front of a picture of Andrew Jackson, supposedly there to honor Native Americans. And I know a lot of people, they have to brush up on their history, and that's a problem that a lot of Americans have. They leave, they've been gone, and they've been removed from, school from a long time, grammar school and high school, and a lot of people didn't go to college. But basic knowledge of history should tell you what certain political figures did in their past and what they were responsible for. So, if you look at these things and you don't see that it's concerted and it's not even, it's direct. Some people would be like, oh, did you see that was subliminal? No. That shit is direct. He knows what he's doing. He knows that is grabbing his base.
He just talks about Pocahontas. Oh, you guys, he's like, you guys are very special. But we have somebody that was in there for a long time, too.
I like you guys.
Pocahontas. I really like you guys. I really like you guys.
And he talks like a third grader.
Right. Is he the only president ever to go off the cuff with all his speeches? It's all off the cuff. Everything's off the cuff with him.
There's a very different aspect to teleprompter Trump and when he's just speaking freely, like you said, he's ad-libbing. See, when he's apologizing for something, that's teleprompter Trump. Mm-hmm. If he's in front of the House, that's teleprompter Trump. That's Stephen Miller writing his speeches and everything. But when he's in a long-winded interview, like when he got back from Israel, when he was meeting with Netanyahu, when he comes back from Asia, that right there, when he starts getting into a long-winded presser, the personality just comes out. The personality, he's such a textbook narcissist that he can't let go of his personality traits. So it's easy to engage with him and bait him into falling right into your trap. He's not a very intelligent man. He's not.
Right.
He's not. He's easily baitable. You could bait him into a war of words. Now, this basic thing I thought about on Thanksgiving. Think about this as an American, or just I'm speaking just directly to anybody that's listening out there. Every one of us, hopefully, we have done things for other people, random acts of kindness. You've helped somebody, opened a door for them, painted a room for them, delivered groceries for them, something.
Right.
Some sort of act of kindness to reach out to another person and help them along the way. Have you ever come out publicly and demanded a thank you for it? What kind of person has to give themselves a hand job after they do something for somebody?
That's comical.
And demand, the 3 kids that had their indiscretions and robbed sunglasses, the UCLA players, they thanked President Trump. Okay? Even for his what we all know to be a very small role in what happened, but he still had a role in what happened. Mm-hmm. They thanked him, rightfully so. Good. They thanked him for him interjecting and helping out there. They thanked him. Now, this notion that afterwards that the father, LeVar Ball, owes him something, he owes him nothing. He owes him nothing. He wasn't there. He's the parent. The son apologized. The other 2 players apologized. They thanked President Trump. That's where the thank you has to stop.
Right.
Do I have to thank President Trump? No. Neither does LeVar Ball.
Red's checking in on the text line. He says LeVar Ball challenged MJ to a one-on-one match.
I've seen that multiple times.
Yeah. Is that something that just is happening to spark more publicity? Or
he says things every day. He goes on First Take. He's constantly on different shows.
I don't pay attention to him.
Saying things to make himself relevant and keep his brand relevant. And it's simply that all that it is. Mm-hmm. Michael Jordan, at this point in his personal life, would absolutely mop the court with LeVar Ball.
Oh, absolutely.
Forget about it in his prime. And LeVar Ball spouts off about stuff like, hey, you know, I would have took MJ in his prime. Comical. Excuse me. And that's why I say, look.
You funny boy.
You're looking at the same kind of dynamic here. You're looking at a LeVar Ball. You're looking at a Donald Trump. They're the same person.
Hey, you gotta be a moron.
You gotta be a real
You gotta be a moron to want to be a fighter. You know what I mean?
It's the same dynamic. They're the same guy. They're both embarrassing. But I realize what LeVar Ball is actually trying to do by using Trump's name. He's making himself relevant. He's keeping himself relevant.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what he's doing. I mean, and now think about this. People are like, he's going to hurt himself. Before you speak, think. How would LeVar Ball, who has the Triple B brand that he's trying to keep relevant and he's trying to market and build.
What's the Triple B?
It's Big Ballers brand.
Okay, not familiar.
It's apparel.
Okay.
His demographic is urban.
Mm-hmm.
African American. Urban. Okay? Now, most of that demographic is anti-Trump. He's not hurting his brand. He's helping it. And he knows what he's doing. By speaking about his son, he's helping his son's brand.
That's true.
He knows what he's doing.
I mean, I know who his sons are.
Right, but that's what I'm saying. Mm-hmm. These people know what they're doing. It's concerted. It's calculated. They know what they're doing. They plan this. See, that's the idea. This is what we have nowadays in society. We have people like that girl, Catch Me Outside girl, that Danielle, whatever her last name is. The one that became famous off of Dr. Phil interviews. You remember that girl? Catch Me Outside, how about that? That little girl, now she's making rap videos and got signed, I believe, to Atlantic.
Oh, yeah.
How do you think stuff like that happens?
Like going viral on the internet?
No, by the erosion of our traditional values in the United States of America. That's how it happens. Think about this little girl robbing cars at 13 years old, completely disrespectful to her mother, attacking her mother, hitting people, getting arrested, robbing, stealing. And she's going to be famous. They're paying her to make music videos. Major record labels are signing her because of her 15 minutes of fame. What happens to the morality, the civil discourse? And think about things like this. That's how a Donald Trump is president of the United States.
And it's been going on for years. I mean, we immortalize people like Charlie Manson.
They become pop icons. They become pop icons. But if you look at a person like Charles Manson, Ted Bundy, Jeffrey Dahmer, their rise into pop culture from the 70s and 80s into the 90s, their rise into pop culture was a result of studying them. It was a result of finding out how a person, in doing the profiling that the FBI did, finding out how a person like a Ted Bundy or a Charles Manson could interact in society like a chameleon, basically.
Right.
You look at Ted Bundy, specific example. The term serial killer was born from the moniker being given to Ted Bundy. And that became from studying him and finding out how a person could have that kind of dichotomy, where a person could be on a suicide line in the evening, leave the suicide center, and kill women. And his best friend was Ann Rule, the author. She wrote Stranger Beside Me about Ted Bundy. Ted Bundy sat with her on an every evening basis, and she never, ever, ever suspected that he was the serial killer in Colorado, in Washington, Utah, Florida. Never thought it. She said one time that she spoke to him and said that they had the description of this Ted that drove a VW Bug. And she jokingly said to him, "It's not you, is it? You drive a VW Bug and your name is Ted. It's not you, is it?" She says, "Oh, you couldn't possibly think it's me. You don't think it's me, do you?" She says, "No." But now, The reality sets in when he finally gets caught. How does that happen? How does a serial killer that killed 38 women, and he said in an interview with an FBI profiler, when they asked him the extent of his victims, he said add a 1 to that. Because he was at it since he was a teenager, is what he said.
Wow.
And the one serial killer that I actually believe, they all like to exaggerate their numbers to make themselves important.
Hannibal Lecter?
No, I actually believe Ted Bundy. When he said that he killed over 100 women, I believe him. I actually believe him. See, Ted Bundy was a sociopath, and he was also a coward wrapped into one. And he came from a very distinct and, I could say, damaging background. Like, he grew up thinking that his mother was actually his sister. And he was raised by his grandparents because he was abandoned. He could never get past the fact that he was a bastard. His father took off, and his mother remarried, and that's where he got the last name Bundy.
Huh.
Yeah, it's a very intriguing.
How do you know so much about Ted Bundy?
I know so much about a lot of different, a myriad of different topics.
You're freaking me out right now, drama.
No, you shouldn't be freaked out. This is why what my point was before I started the ramble is we get intrigued with things like that throughout in pop culture.
All right.
And then the T-shirts start, the movies of the week. That's how it happens.
After school specials?
No, think about this. When you have, beautiful. When you have a story like about the Menendez brothers or something like that, they become books and movies of the week. And that's when it becomes introduced to pop culture. You're live on Back Talk.
What's up, drama? It's Red.
What's up, Red?
Red.
My man.
What's up, dude?
What's going on, brother?
Not to throw you off. Well, I don't want to throw you. Why are you saying my name in the background, Z?
Red.
No, I don't want to. No, I don't want to throw you off subject. You're just talking about like serial killers and stuff.
No, it's not off subject.
If you want to check out one, check out Pee Wee Gaskins.
Pee Wee Gaskins.
And the only reason I bring him up is because he's from here. He's from where I'm from.
Okay.
And he's actually related to my brother-in-law. Like that's my brother-in-law's like great great uncle.
Really?
Somewhere like relatively close.
Okay.
Yeah, it's weird, man. But it's a good story. Like it understand like all that
now,
shit.
This is a serial.
You're just talking about Ted
is
Bundy.
Yes, sir. Yep. This is a serial killer that I've never heard of. Do you have any background on him?
Yeah, man. I've read his both autobiographies, man. He's got one. The autobiography of Pee Wee Gaskins is the one that's straight from him, where the reporter sat with him every night while he was in prison.
Okay.
And he recorded the conversations they would have, and then he went home and would write the book, and he would actually write the words the way he spoke them. So if he mispronounced a word, that's the way he would write it in the book. That way it was actually, because he wasn't allowed to have a pencil or pens or anything like that before he died.
All right. So how many victims did he have?
That's one reported 60.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, reported.
That's
but
a
the
lot.
way he was getting away with it is because this dude, check this out. So this guy, he's from Lake City, South Carolina, which is only about an hour away from where I'm from in Macedonia, South Carolina.
Got you.
And he would travel from Lake City to Charleston, and he would drive a hearse, like a fucking funeral hearse, and it had a sign on the back that says, "We'll carry anything dead or alive." But he would pick up hitchhikers.
Wow.
And those aren't the only people he killed. He actually reportedly killed his niece and put her in the septic tank. Fucking crazy.
Yeah, this is one that it's under the
how
radar.
you-
I've never heard of him. And I know quite a
he's like
bit
top
about the traditional
10
serial
or top
killer.
50. But he was getting away with it because we have swamps out here. So he was taking the bodies and taking duffel bags, filling up with heavy rocks.
Well,
and
I'll
tying
tell you-
them to
I'll
their
tell you
legs
how
and
it's-
throwing them in the swamps, let the fucking alligators get it.
Right. Well, I'll tell you what's easier too and this is after the years and years of FBI profiling. they studied certain serial killers. A lot of them had that in common, where they would pick up hitchhikers and or prostitutes. A lot of them are separated and removed from the general structure and their families. So it's a lot easier for a serial killer to continue doing what he's doing when the victims are not missed by anybody, because they've already been, in most cases, been reported missing for over a decade. Some of these women that were picked up by people like Gary Ridgway, the Green River Killer, he picked up and preyed upon prostitutes. Now, a lot of these women were already in what the police would consider cold cases, missing person cases. Some of them were considered transients because they weren't into the normal functioning everyday society. I mean, they were turnkey. They were missed by their family. That a lot of their families didn't know where they were. Some of them didn't have families. So my point is, a lot of those victims, it's easier for them to get away with multiple victims because they're not missed. They're not reported. So they're able to finally get caught after, bodies start stacking up, and they keep, the Green River Killer, he kept dumping bodies in the same area. And finally, the profilers actually had Ted Bundy help him catch Gary Ridgway. So it's really fascinating. But, and our point was, that is how things like that, they get transferred over into pop culture. And it's easy for that to happen because when these stories happened, and a lot of these serial killers were doing what they were doing in the 70s and early 80s, the stories would come out and immediately books were written. They would get magazine, coverage, and they would get mainstream media coverage. Then they would become movies of the week, and then motion pictures, and then and that's how it becomes ingrained in pop culture. And then,
Well, I don't think.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I don't think there's a movie. I know there's a Lifetime documentary or some one of those like documentaries where they had his daughter on it, but she's changed her name. If you're from here, everybody knows about. He's known around here. Maybe not nationwide. I think there's a band in like an Asian band, like a Korean pop band. I think they're named Pee Wee Gaskins. I think they're based after him, but not.
And that's what I'm saying. That's how it transfers over to pop culture. I saw and it's been floating. I'm sure you guys have seen it as well. It's been floating all over social media. They have coffee mugs in like dinner plates, and they have serial killers likenesses on the coffee mugs. Charles Manson, Jeffrey Dahmer, Richard Ramirez, Richard Speck. All of these serial killers that are ingrained in John Wayne Gacy, throughout history. And they actually, you could get T-shirts that are made. They have countless different T-shirt companies, for apparel and stuff like that. I mean, the book sales, the movies. If you look now, if you do a little bit of research, it started in, I believe, the early 2000s. But you have a major motion pictures. They have one called Dahmer, one called Gacy, one called Bundy, where they actually made movies, motion pictures about these guys. So, that's how it, again, becomes ingrained into pop culture. And, that for a person like me, I mean, the further we go into glorifying and sensationalizing everything that the way we have in the media, it goes to show you. I mean, it's that is going to help erode our moral compass, and it's unfortunate, but that's been happening, like Z said, for a long time now. Look, we are responsible for Donald Trump. We're responsible for that. We are responsible for that. Whether you're a supporter of his or you're not, we're still responsible for the fact that we have a guy in office that speaks the way that he does. We are directly responsible for that. We're all complicit when it comes to that. You know, we haven't spoken out enough.
I feel you.
You know, when it comes to, this is why I get along well, even with people like yourself that are Trump supporters. One of my best friends and countless family members, other good, really close friends of mine are Trump supporters. It is born from the idea that a lot of people are just simply fed up. But the simple fact is we have to do more ourselves personally. When we are fed up, we got to speak out. Because right now, facts are facts, man. I mean, what he's doing right now is nothing. Basically nothing. And it's more of the same already. So we got to speak up, man. If we want change for ourselves, we got to speak up. We got to band together, but we're just too distracted. We're too desensitized. We have too much in front of us. We're playing with our phones. We're worried about Facebook. We want to look pretty for everybody. We want to impress everybody. Everybody now, because people are able so easily to grab that 15 minutes. Every one of us want to be part of something. We want that 15 minutes. You know, we want to be able to get that kind of validation and attention every day on social media. We want to feel important. So it's easy to get caught up in that and sit back, and that's why the powers that be, they know that. They know that. They know that we're so distracted that they could just keep doing the same things to us over and over and over again. And we basically just bend over the armchair and let them fuck us. That's what we do.
True story.
That's exactly what we do. I mean, this is not just Trump. This goes back to every president, every elected official. You go back, I don't care if it's Obama that you didn't like, or one of the Bushes or the Clintons, or Reagan, or Carter before him. It doesn't matter to me. If you go back and look, it's the same shit. It's the same shit.
I don't even think I was alive before, even with Bill.
Right, but what I'm saying is, you know, even myself as a gentleman that's in his early 40s, I was around for a lot of it.
God damn, you old.
Yeah, man.
Shut up.
Yeah. But you guys make me feel young. You make me feel young.
Sorry that I was born in the 90s.
That's okay. That's okay. The 90s were fun.
The T-shirt I'm wearing right now is older than you, Red.
Probably. Not surprised.
That's called nostalgia,
It's an
bro.
old-ass shirt. Probably got mothball.
That's called nostalgia, and there's nothing wrong with that. The 90s
I'm
were...
not even old enough to say that word yet.
Nah, you're old enough. You're old enough. There's nostalgia is anything that you bring with you from the way you were raised in your childhood. Those good old feelings that you have, man. Those are and I got to publicly, cuz I didn't get a chance to do this. I want to say thank you to Red as well. Not only is he a friend of the show, man, and he's a big supporter of Back Talk, and I really truly appreciate that, and I do, man. This dude reached out to me on Thanksgiving, man, when I was alone, and said, "Look, man, Drama, if you got some time, you know, you're welcome with my family, man. Don't, you know, if you can do it, you know, take a flight, you know, come chill with us." You know, and that hit home with me, man, and I appreciate something like that. And at some point, man,
that's no problem.
I'm gonna come down south, man, and I'm gonna because I've never been down south. Drama has never been down south, but at some point I'm gonna do it. And when I do it, man, I'm gonna look you up, man, and I'm gonna buy you a few beers, man, because that was much appreciated, man. It was really
not a problem, man, at
that
all.
was really cool of you, man. And again, I thank you for your support, man. And the little gems that you dropped about Pee Wee Haskins today. I got to look into that because I'm obsessed with serial killers.
Yeah, I'll send you some stuff.
Send me some links, man. Because I like to listen. I like to learn. I have a myriad of different serial killer books at home. I just find them fascinating how they could actually interact every day in society, and people had like no clue what they were really monsters. I don't condone anything they did.
Yeah,
it's
I know
just,
you can read it. You can read the book online, but actually to find a copy, I had one copy, and then my brother-in-law took it back because I got done reading it. But I'll tell you this, man. It got to like chapter 7, and I had to like set it down for a little while because it fucked me up for a couple minutes.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's going to be
when you to read.
Yeah, when you, I've read, like I said, a multitude of different books on that subject. I'm going to tell you something right now. When you're reading these different, like Stranger Beside Me, The Killer Clown about, John Wayne Gacy, when you read up on, their stories, I mean, it's going to get very disconcerting. I mean, they're not easy reads. You're going to be uncomfortable because you're realizing that these, with so many innocent people killed, And, obviously stories about their lives are quite disturbing. But like I said, in the same aspect, it's fascinating how they could become so ingrained in pop culture. I'll give you a prime example. Not a lot of people know about this, but one of my close friends who is a lawyer in the entertainment industry, he actually grew up with me locally here, and he has been in L.A. for a long, long time, and he bought remember Michael Landon? Remember Michael Landon?
Mm-hmm. Little House on the Prairie?
Yeah, absolutely. He bought his old house.
Oh, wow.
And he lives in Michael Landon's old house. And he came across one of John Wayne Gacy's pictures that he drew himself. John Wayne Gacy would dress up for children's parties as Pogo the Clown. And he did paintings.
Yeah,
and
I know who John Wayne Gacy is.
Yeah, and he did drawings with markers as well. So when he was in prison, he would do all these prints from memory of the paintings that he used to do when he was out and he was free. So he did a couple with marker, one of which Johnny Depp got a hold of. And Johnny Depp owned it for a while, and he bequeathed it to Marilyn Manson. And it ended up in my buddy's possession, and he still has it.
Wow.
And he just texted me last week.
I think I just heard.
And asked me if I wanted to buy it.
Go ahead.
He asked me if I wanted to buy it.
Yeah, I just listened to a
ago.
podcast. If you listen to Mark Maron, the comedian's podcast, what the fuck? He just had Marilyn Manson on, and they were actually just talking about that shit. It was probably a month ago.
Mm-hmm. My buddies put me in a group text. This was literally a couple weeks ago. They put me in a group text, and they said, "Hey, Tommy, I'm not, I don't want to blow my friend's spot up, but my buddy, they're like, hey, he still has the Gacy painting.
Wow.
Do you want it?" And I said, yeah, I would love it, because it's freaking him out to have it in his, he doesn't want it in his house anymore. He recently had 2 children, and now it's gotten to the point where it's uncomfortable for him. He doesn't like it in his in his world anymore, and it's just
you were the first person he thought of.
Of course he did. Of course they 3 different people put me in a group text, and they were like, hey, Drama, you want the Gacy Pogo the Clown painting? And I just thought it was fascinating that.
So it's like Z with that Ouija board.
No, no Ouija board for me.
I'm gonna tell you something, man. That's another thing too. I mean, I don't know your Ouija board story, but I had a friend contact me. I just put up a post that was on social media. It was sometime last year. I put up a post about Ouija boards, and I was just asking general questions because I've been around people with Ouija boards and stuff like that, but I never really sat down with a Ouija board and used it or anything like that. So I asked general questions about that, and everybody was like, "Don't you dare! Don't you stay away from that. That's really it's really serious and it's fucked up." Well, I asked about it. So one of my good friends called me up on the phone, bro. He's like, I took out of his own attic, he took an original Ouija board, which I have in my truck. I still have it in my truck. And it's still in the packaging, and I just pulled it out a little bit just to look at it, and it's old and it's fucking creepy. And I shoved that thing right back in there, man, and I'm like, I'm not interested in waking up any evil spirits or anything like that. I believe in that stuff a little bit. So I left that alone, because you have to kind of when you work with a Ouija board, kind of conjure up some stuff that's, resting.
You're
and
opening up portals.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Drama has enough bad luck. I don't need anything added from the underworld or afterlife, whatever moniker you want to give it. I definitely don't need it, but I'll tell you what. That sort of, I mean, it's no surprise to anybody that knows me. I'm a big fan of the macabre. I love horror movies and comic books and stuff like that. I grew up with an adoration for that stuff, and that's where the fascination with the serial killers and pop culture and all of that stuff was born. So I have so many different books and things like that. But as far as to, like you said, wake up anything in any different realm or different portals, I want to stay away from that, man. Definitely want to stay away from that. But I'll tell you what, we're moving in in some pretty frightening directions, man. Pretty frightening directions. Red, man, thank you for calling in, brother. I appreciate it.
Oh, it's no problem, man. I'll hit y'all later.
Have a good day, my man.
Be good, Red. That's my man.
Yeah, Red's a good dude, man. Yeah, so that call came into me, man, and they're like, do you really want, this is a piece of pop culture, and I sat and I thought about it, and I said, you know what, I think I'm going to grab this thing, man. It's a piece of, it's a huge piece of history in pop culture, and again, for people that are listening, I don't condone any of that stuff.
Right.
I'm not condoning what any, serial killer did. I find it disturbing and disgusting and completely disconcerting. But just the aspect of it that, it's fascinating how a person like that could be such a chameleon, how they could just interact with society daily, and just be a complete sociopath and deviant, sexual deviant, and people wouldn't even know. I mean, Bundy was involved in politics, went to college. He hobnobbed with governors. Same thing with John Wayne Gacy. He was a member of the JC. JC's an active member. He hosted parties at his home. Nobody knew. He was a local contractor in Illinois. Nobody knew that he had 33 bodies under his house in Illinois. People didn't know. That's fascinating to me.
Yeah.
It's like interacting with you all day long. Every single day. I see you, twice a week, 3 times a week. And you got 50 bodies under your house. I had no idea. It's crazy. It's crazy.
It's nuts.
Checking
on the text line, too. Ruben checked in a while back. He said, you're fair and balanced, my friend.
Yeah. You have to be.
That's you. And also, he said, fuck Jackson, Creek Wars, and the Trail of Tears. My people suffered a lot.
That's right.
Talking about Andrew Jackson.
That's right. Look, man, this is what I try to articulate to people. Trump is actively in the White House. He's the standing president. Okay? A lot of people, because we have the influx, especially with the D, I get a lot since I started Back Talk. I get a lot of friend requests now. And, friends are added, and they don't know the history of the things that I was talking about. So when you're bashing a political figure, it's easy for the people that don't know you to immediately think that you're on the opposite end of the spectrum, that you're a liberal or a snowflake, all these different titles they like to give to people, libtard, whatever they like to use. And this is what I try to tell people that are actually listening to the show. It is not just Trump. I'm disgusted by him. He speaks to nothing that I adhere to at all. But no politician does in my eyes. I look at them all in the same light. That's the point I try to articulate to people. I don't, as far as integrity-wise, yes, I gave a little bit, and I still will, and I'll say it honestly and openly. I'll give integrity-wise credit to Obama because he was a class act when it came to that stuff. He was in office, without having these kind of incidents that we had with Bill Clinton and, Donald Trump and stuff like that, scandal-free. He did represent himself with class while he was being attacked for 8 years. I respected that about him. Okay? But this idea that I was a, avid, and staunch supporter of Hillary because I don't like Trump, that couldn't be further from the truth. I loathed her. That's why I stayed away from supporting either one. I said it was like choosing a door, and I'm sorry to say this because I'm not trying to use this example for anybody that's sick. But I have to, this is how I articulate it to people. To me, it was like walking into a room, okay? And another room, 2 rooms are off of that room. And you got two doors. And one door says cancer, the other door says AIDS. And they say, pick one. That's what it was like to me to go to the voting booth and just see that what we had was Donald Trump or Hillary Clinton. And then to know that, okay, you got the throw-in candidates. You got Jill Stein. You got Gary Johnson. I knew what a third-party vote would do. It would swing for either one of them. It would help them. It would help one defeat the other by voting for a Gary Johnson or voting for a Jill Stein. That helped get Donald Trump elected. And a lot of the Bernie supporters, that were avid Bernie supporters. What they did was, see, Hillary thought the DNC got rigged. She thought this support from the Bernie supporters is going to spill over to her, and they're immediately going to vote for her, and it did not happen. It didn't happen that way. You know what they decided to do? Some of them went to the Trump team. Some of them went to the Trump team. Some of them just said, do you know 46% of the American voting base decided to stay home. They didn't vote because of the same reason that I was just talking about. They were disgusted with the two different candidates. I mean, you felt the same way yourself.
Oh, absolutely. But I voted for Gary Johnson.
Right. And many people did. But you still can't. You still have that very low percentage of the third party candidates.
It's amazing how we're still talking about this election a year after it's happened.
Well,
that's how historic it was.
It was, but frightening though. Mm-hmm. Frightening.
We have a text message coming in from Destro.
Destro
from Lakeland, Florida. He says, "Tommy, it sounds like to me you're an anti-Trump America hater. Just kidding. Great show."
Thank you. I appreciate
Thanks,
that.
Thanks, Destro.
I appreciate that. I appreciate the support as well. I'll tell you what I am anti. I'm anti-politician that is continually selling us the same bubblegum fucking flavor that we've been chewing on since we were little kids. That's what I'm tired of. I'm tired of the Trumps. I'm tired of the Hillary Clintons. I'm tired of this traditional ruse of the two parties that we settle into all the time. That we attack each other online, right and left, right and left, right and left. We attack each other all day on these subjects. Instead of banding together and saying, fuck these people, they do nothing for us. Look, we all fall into that. The people that listen to Back Talk, the people that listen to EC Radio, the people that listen to the Matt Major Show, these are people that are, they're middle-class Americans, man. The majority of us, we're not rich people.
Right.
We're grinders. We're hustlers. We get out there every day. We work our asses off. We represent America. We are the voice of America. None of us want to get fucked anymore, man. We want to get what we deserve, man. Immigrants built this country. Every one of us. Our blood, sweat, and tears. The people in the workforce. We're what keeps America thriving and going. That's the best part of America, the diversity. Us, our hard work. And yet, you look into this tax plan, you look into that stuff. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Telling you, you look into this. Their incentives, it works out to like $2,000 a day for the top 1%. What did they allocate for us? It's like 20 cents. It's like 20 cents. Telling you, man. Climb the mountain with me. Climb the mountain with me. Let's band together. Forget this right and left shit. That's what they want you to do.
Right.
They want just pick a side, divide and conquer shit. Nah, man. You know what I do every weekend? One of my best friends is the biggest Trump supporter in the world. We see nothing eye to eye. Nothing from the political standpoint. We go out and get fucked up. I love that you're keeping this rolling. Keep it going. We go out and get fucked up. We laugh. We joke around. I do my Trump impressions of George W. Bush, and we just keep it moving, man. We get along. That's what more people have to do. Ask questions. There's a lot that I don't understand about certain Trump supporters, but I say the same thing to Hillary supporters. Like, what did you see in Hillary besides the fact that she wasn't him? But I speak to people that are still talking about Hillary Clinton, and they ask me to, Drama, why don't you talk about Hillary Clinton? You know why? Because she's not relevant.
Right.
She's not relevant.
Why give her the satisfaction?
Exactly. I'm not buying her books.
Right.
I wasn't going to vote for her. I can't stand her. I loathe that pantsuit pariah. But I'm going to tell you, listen.
Pantsuit pariah.
That's what she is. She's a pantsuit pariah, and she was never relevant, and I'm not going to make her relevant by speaking about her. I'm not going to do it. She didn't win. She won the popular vote, and that's just because, look, she was running against Beelzebub. She was running literally against Lucifer. And not that she's not a devil herself.
She is.
Because she is. And I agree with you wholeheartedly. But I'm not going to make her relevant anymore. And what I speak about is things like the DNC being rigged and the attack that we're having right now on the Fourth Estate, because it's important for especially Trump supporters. You have to realize don't fall into this anymore. Don't fall into this. Don't support that part. If you want him to be your guy because you're a jobs person and you're worried about the American economy and real everyday issues, if that's why you supported him, you have to stop back. You got to step back and at least look at the negatives as well. You can't just look at what you think are positives. Mm-hmm. You have to listen to the other side. That's part of communication. You got to step back and say to yourself, okay, you know what? I understand that, I'm a middle American and he's going to bring what I think is a job to my city, to my state. He speaks to something personally in me. But you also have to look at other things as well. How it affects, each politician has their style of governing.
Uh-huh.
I'll give a prime example. If you're a pioneer and a protector of the Second Amendment, I'm very conservative when it comes to that. I want my right to bear arms. I don't want it infringed upon. I don't want anybody telling me that I can't carry a weapon or purchase a weapon. Do I want any maniac in the world being it available to them easily and accessibly? No.
Fuck no.
No. But that's just because I have family and I have friends and I care about my fellow humans that are important to me. But I don't want anybody's rights infringed upon. Of course not. Of course not. So my point by saying that is, even if you're avid and you're passionate about your rights being upheld, that's awesome, and I'm all for that. But you have to think about the person that is a survivor, or they're a victim, or one of their family members was a victim of a mass shooting. You have to think from the other side's perspective as well. You have to think of what these people have been through. That's why we have to have this kind of communication. The idea, if you see after a mass shooting, we talked about this after Vegas, because you're so rooted in Vegas. We talked about this. Immediately, every time a mass shooting, which is becoming the norm, and that's sickening enough to say, but every time this happens now, what happens? What do? Immediately after these things, we continuously say we can't talk about it now. We can't talk about it yet. We can't talk about it yet. Then a month goes by and we still don't want to talk about it. And then another one happens. And we say too soon. Too soon. We don't want to talk about it. We don't want to talk about it. Well, we have to talk about it. Because they're getting more devastating each when it comes. We talked about this. 530 people were injured. 530. That could have been 530 fatalities.
Mm-hmm.
59 people died. When is it enough? When is it enough? We have to talk about it. Mm-hmm. At least talk about it. And we have to implement some sort of policy. Don't we think at this point, I don't care if, again, I'm all for Second Amendment. But don't you think at this point that we need to have conversations? Look, people want to go back intrinsically to arguments about the Constitution and our forefathers. Well, our forefathers designed the Constitution with the premise and the idea that they knew that it would have to be changed. It would have to be revised. That's the brilliance of the Constitution. That's what it was left to us for. It was for us.
We got a couple people checking on the text line. You too could check on the text line at 315-505-8433.
The D.
315-505. The D. Ruben from Houston checking in. He says you'll have more fun catching AIDS. That's like we were talking about voting between Trump and Hillary.
I'll tell you what. I remember.
Which one was AIDS and which one was cancer?
It doesn't matter. That's the point. That's the point. It doesn't matter. I remember early during the Democratic National Convention,
mm-hmm.
during the RNC, the Republican National Convention. I remember. If you remember, there was a ton on the Republican side.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God! You had Rubio, you had John Kasich, you had Ted Cruz, Jeb Bush. The list goes on and on and on. And I remember early on, I said to myself, Trump is not going to, he can't make it out of this convention. And that part of it was personal for me because I said to myself, I spent a lot of time, as you know, downstate, and it was personal for me because I'm like, I know this guy's a douche. My best friends have been around, and lived in New York City for a very long time, where he lost 9-1 in New York City, his hometown. Okay, 9-1, 9-1. That goes that speaks for somebody there. They hate him. They hate him there, and because people know he's a fucking douche. They hate him there.
Destro from Lakeland, he says he didn't vote for Trump. He voted against Hillary. Feels
A lot
like
of people did.
At least the last 4 presidential elections have been choosing who's going to fuck over the country the least, not who's going to do anything good for the working class.
I agree with him 100%. I agree with him 100%. And I think part of what Destro brings up is Trump's appeal was directly that. He managed to make himself. Now think about this. Think about this here. A spoon-fed billionaire who never worked a day in his life, who inherited money that was already there. He sold himself as a champion for the working class. Right? And America bought it. Americans bought it. He sat in front of America and said that he's going to bring coal mining jobs back. And Obama...
Coal mining.
Yeah, coal mining jobs. Let's bring back the phonograph, too, Mr.
Yeah.
Trump. Let's do that.
Like we're living on Little House on the Prairie.
Yeah, by the way, let's put 8 tracks in our cars again. Coal mining jobs. And he blamed that industry, the loss of jobs, on Obama.
Mark,
that's not what stole those kind of jobs. That's not what stole those kind of jobs. It's called welcome to innovation. That's what it's called. Welcome to innovation. Train people to do things in those areas. Other kinds of jobs.
I'm going to be
Clean
late for
energy.
supper, Ma. I got to go to my coal mining job.
Look.
Come on, coal mining job.
But I'm just saying, he sold himself as a champion for the working class.
And nothing against the coal mining people of the world.
And to this idea, and this is what I'm talking about, the shock value of it is the idea that this guy is selling himself as a champion for the working class when he doesn't know anything and he doesn't relate to the working class at all. And think about what is inherently wrong in the United States of America is wealth distribution. That's what Destro was just talking about. If you think about what's inherently wrong with this country, it's wealth distribution. So how this notion and this ideology that we have that a billionaire, which is the epitome of what's wrong with the wealth distribution, he represents that he's going to fix it? How is he going to fix it? No, what he's going to do is he's going to fix it in the favor, like he's doing now, for his fellow billionaires. That's what he's doing. And yet, people are still sold upon it. See, the average Trump supporter are the people that are going to be fucked by him. That's why I'm fascinated by it. He's fucking you. And you're applauding it. You're applauding it. Lyndon Johnson has a great quote about what you could do to the middle class. Bring it up.
Give me a second here.
Yep. Just type in Lyndon Johnson, his quote about the middle class. And it shows you. It's like we politicians to us are magicians. It's like a Vegas act.
The Great Society speech?
What's that?
This one right here.
The purpose of protecting the life of our nation and preserving the liberty of our citizens is to pursue the happiness of our people. Our success.
No, what I'm talking about is an actual
pursuit
meme.
Is the test of our success
It's
as
a
a
national
nation.
meme. I typed in middle class Lyndon Johnson.
For a century,
No, this is a meme, and he refers to in the meme of being duped by people with money, and actually them getting you to follow them when they're actually doing nothing for you. And it was made into a meme, of course, but him speaking to it was one of his quotes, and what he's doing there is he's letting he's telling you that it's easy to fool somebody with promises empty promises, and that's what we get all the time. We're getting fooled by empty promises, and we think when somebody's making a promise that it's actual legislation and policy. It's not. See, Clinton did that. Bill Clinton did that. Bill Clinton sold himself as a champion for the working class. And then he started off in office, and he was doing the exact opposite. He was detrimental to the working class. So it's the same old story. It's tired and it's exhausting. It's tired and it's exhausting, but we do nothing about it. We do nothing about it. You look at... Do you remember during the campaign when Donald Trump was campaigning? What song did he... What song?
To forget about it.
Okay, but what song... This is a heavy dose of sarcasm for everybody. What song did Donald Trump come out to when he was campaigning?
I don't remember.
You don't remember?
No. I didn't pay attention.
Well, you're a music guy. I'm going to tell you. Revolution.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Do you know
Revolution.
Revolution.
By the Beatles.
Absolutely. Do you know what that song's about?
It's about a revolution.
No, it's about don't be fooled by a false prophet politician that's selling you on the idea that he's going to start a revolution. Trump came out with that message, and he is exactly what the song was about. And yet and what does people do? They didn't make the correlation.
No,
they sat there. This is a very, very, very valid point I'm making. The people sat there during his campaigns and his rallies, and he comes out to the song Revolution by the Beatles. And the song is about Trump. It's about a Donald Trump. And they're clapping. They're clapping. They're getting exactly what the song is about in Donald Trump, and they're clapping. They're applauding it. And that's what I'm talking about. That's how we get sold into it. Complete obscurity. Blind eyes. Blind faith in politicians. They don't, not one of them gives a single solitary fuck about us. They do not. At all. At all. If you have local elections, get involved where you're from.
Yeah.
Get involved.
100%.
Get involved.
I do.
So do I.
I vote
locally,
all
it
the time.
matters.
Yes.
Your voice matters.
It does.
You can make a difference.
There's no electoral college.
Absolutely. You can make a difference and make your voice heard.
Electoral scam.
Do it. Get involved locally.
100%.
If you feel like somebody is doing a great job and they're doing great things for your community, endorse them. Help them out. Pass out flyers. Put signs on your lawn. Do everything that you can. And I understand nationally, that's where I have a problem.
Mm-hmm.
You tell me. I have this argument all the time, and I'll continue to say it over and over and over again. I'll beat that proverbial dead horse. I don't care. You call in and tell me how you think nationally your voice matters. Again, we are proven. We had in 2000, where
Bush and Gore.
Bush lost that election.
Yep, because
became president
because of Florida.
Right. We had that whole thing that was going on for days and days, and poor Tom Brokaw was reporting one person won, then the other person won.
Yeah.
And then it happened again. You have Trump, who lost by over 3 million votes. And you tell me, look, people say, no, America wanted change, and that's why. Americans wanted change, and they spoke. No, you're wrong when you say that. America did speak. They rejected him. If you want to use that argument, the argument is not in your favor.
Mm-hmm.
Because America did speak, and they were vigorously opposed to him, and they rejected him by over 3 million votes. So when they spoke against him. They did not want him as president. And his approval rating right now is abysmal.
Is it in the 30s?
And always in the 30s. Yeah. Steady in the 30s. It's abysmal. Because people are waking up every single day, more and more people, even his supporters. A lot of them are backing away now and saying, I didn't sign up for this. It's too much now. With the Twitter every day. It's just too much. The battles with citizens. You know, I seen a tweet that was hilarious. That somebody said, look, you know who the person of the year should be? The person of the year should be whoever was able to silence Donald Trump's Twitter account for that 11 minutes. That's who the person of the year should be. I found that to be hilarious.
That was hilarious.
You know,
that was
because
the employee they got fired.
I'm sure.
Before they got fired, they blocked his account or something like that, or
Mhm.
took down his account for a couple minutes.
And I'm sure that's how a lot of people feel.
Mhm.
At this point, people are just tired, man.
Right.
They're tired of the constant. It's just the same thing every day. People wake up and they're like, "What is this idiot going to say now?"
Mm-hmm.
Instead of actually leading. Can't stay off of Twitter. Can't just actually govern. What about the policy and the legislation? What about the American people? What about the middle class? What about the jobs? If you look at the real numbers, the stock market was rising.
Yeah.
Since 2010.
Yeah.
That Foxconn thing, the deal was in the works since 2012. They were continuously making promises. Okay? The jobs in America were on the rise. And they were steadily on the rise. The job creation in the last quarter with Obama was actually higher than it was with Trump. So he's actually, in reality, he's not doing as good as Obama was. And a lot of the things that you're seeing now are, really real legislation and policy comes in 10 years, 8 years. A lot of things that presidents implement, it takes a long time to come into fruition.
Mm-hmm.
So some things that Reagan did that were, some things were negative, some things that he did were positive. But you get a Bill Clinton comes into office and people are like, oh, right away, Bill Clinton was responsible for 22 million jobs, excuse me. It wasn't solely him. That's how it works. Okay? Now, what did you hear for 8 years? You heard about how Obama added to the deficit. This is going to add 1.5 trillion to 2 trillion to the deficit as well, this new tax code. With borrowed money. So, listen, don't complain for 8 years about something that you want to vomit about and then applaud a guy that's doing the same thing. He's doing no different.
Right.
We're being sold the same story over and over again. Just by it's like 10 different publishers writing the same book. That's what it is. Telling the same story. They're just different publishers.
Different interpretations.
That's it. That's all it is, man. They're all smokescreens. We have a different face now. A lot of America was outraged because a lot of it was, look, it wasn't about, how often do you see this? And I know even the people that don't like Obama that are listening right now, 8 years, America heard that Obama is the worst president in American history. But if you ask them to tell you why he's the worst American president in the history of America, most of them don't have quite too much to say. Because the simple fact is, whether you agree with his style of governing, whether you were in favor of certain policies, like I wasn't in favor of certain policies and certain deals, he wasn't the worst president in American history. That's ridiculous. You can't say that about a president that helped us get out of another depression, that created this many jobs, that helped the stock market, that was an integral part with Bush. A lot of people don't know this. With bailing out Bush started the bailout for the automotive industry.
Right.
George W. Bush, he signed a bill. Now and then Obama helped and carried it on. So, guess what? That initiative, both of them are responsible for that. Both politicians on both sides were responsible for that. But give the credit where it's due. He wasn't. Listen, the dependency on foreign oil, the things that he did with the EPA, in our national parks and wildlife and conservation, and again, dependency on foreign oil. You can't say it because the facts don't line up with you. They don't line up. They do not line up. You can't have the arguments with me because they don't line up. They don't line up. He's not the worst president. He's not. He was just the blackest. That's it. That's what it is. They don't want to hear it.
Right.
But that's why they don't like him, because he's the blackest.
They're racist.
He was the blackest, and you didn't like it. Now this guy's the fucking whitest. And he has little things like he did last night with Andrew Jackson's portrait with Native Americans, and he speaks and has these little pressers, and he knows what he's doing. That's the kind of systemic thing that we deal with every day in America. I made this comment the other day, and this was important to me. And we talked about this a couple times, Z. Think about this. How many times, Z, have you seen, personally, on social media, a pray for Paris, pray for Texas, pray for Florida, the Paul shooting, this, and that? There's been Muslim attacks on Muslim mosques, peaceful.
Yeah, I know. It's been going on a lot.
Nigeria, Egypt. 235 people were killed
this weekend
in a
right?
2-day span. Yeah, in Egypt. Nobody's praying for Egypt. You know why? Because we're programmed to believe that all Muslims are horrible people and they're all extremists. We're programmed to think that way. We're programmed to be desensitized to innocent women and children of Muslim faith being killed. And it's truly the largest religion in the world. And it's truly, by numbers, the most peaceful religion in the world. The real Islamic faith is peaceful. Just like there's Christian extremists. Of course there's Muslim extremists. Of course. But as a whole, they're peaceful people. They're peaceful people. They don't want the hate. They don't want the bloodshed. Our own government's interaction over there, we're complicit in that. We help with that. Look, you see things that I'm not condoning any of this. I'm explaining it to people. I'm trying to wake people up. When you have a Westerner that's a photographer that goes to the Middle East, and you end up seeing that he got his head chopped off, it's disgusting. It's frightening to us. But you have to understand something. When there's been a bomb campaign in their country every single day since the 80s, and hundreds of thousands of innocent women and children have died in their country because we have constant bomb campaigns with other countries. In their country, you think they're gonna welcome a Westerner with open arms? That's what's born from that. That's how those terror cells are born. You can't arm extremist groups with weapons and intelligence and fund them and then inspect the insurgency afterwards to remain peaceful after you leave and say, okay, we're done with you. And that's what happens. That's how an Al-Qaeda is born. That's how an ISIS is born. You go back to Osama bin Laden. Go back to those days with Osama bin Laden. We gave him intelligence. We armed him in the Afghan war against the Soviets. We helped that. We gave him the intelligence, the weapons, the money, the funding. Then you just walk away from it. It's not how it works. It's not how it works. What I'm saying is that this country is complicit too.
Oh yeah.
They created that power vacuum that was left in Iraq that helped ISIS to be born. We have to take responsibility. And you can't say, when you look at a terrorist attack here in the United States, I'm going to throw up a meme and everybody wants to pray when they're not even really praying, but they want to pray for everybody involved. Well, what about those human beings too? What about the people that are living of the Muslim faith, that are here, that share America with us, that are an integral part of America, that are part of America's lifeline and heartbeat? What about those people? That's their faith. Those are their people. Where's the compassion for them? No, we're programmed to ignore it and not pay attention to it, and not care. And there's many people out there like myself that do care. Many people. And that disgusts me, that I just see that type of ignorance. And we've all been guilty of it. But when I see that type of ignorance, I try to wake people up to it. You want to pray for, whatever happens in Paris, and you want to pray for this and that, and here in the United States. But there's no coverage. It's not rolling off of anybody's tongues when it happens to somebody of the Muslim faith. The world, man, it's more than just what we are. I was raised Roman Catholic. Not everybody's a Roman Catholic. There's Christians, there's born-again Christians, there's Buddhists, there's Muslims. We have in studio our Muslim friends that come in, sit down with us. They teach me about their lessons every day because I'm intrigued. They're very peaceful people.
Mm-hmm.
They don't want anything to do with anything extremist. They don't want anything to do with that. That's a poor representation of who they are and what they study. And they explain that to me. They welcome me in their homes, even though I don't share the same principles as them and the same ideologies that they do. And I didn't grow up the same way. We coexist. We understand one another.
Right.
And that's the thing. That's the thing. How if you become so desensitized that you don't pay attention to other people of different faiths, you don't welcome them into your world, and you have no understanding, then you're going to be completely cold and indifferent to when tragedies happen like that. And that's what we're programmed through the media, through politicians. They stand up there and they constantly tell you. Constantly tell you that you have an enemy. And the enemy, what is the enemy? The enemies are Muslim. The enemies are Muslim. The enemies are Muslim. And we let it sink in and we believe that. We hear about ISIS all the time. Many times, a day do you see a reference to that on social media, somebody saying something about ISIS. Mm-hmm. When they don't realize, if you break down the actual math and the numbers, and you look at ISIS, the numbers rise, but their numbers stand at like 100,000 active members of ISIS. There's 110,000 active members of the Bloods and Crips in America.
Right.
So when politicians and our government, the powers that be, try to sell you that you better be afraid every day of ISIS, think about that. Think about the numbers that I just gave you. They want you to be afraid of these threats that don't exist. They simply do not exist. They tell you about immigration every single day. You hear. It's on your tongue. It's on your tongue because you're talking about it. It's in your head because you hear it every day. Every day they talk about immigration. We need to be tough on immigration, and we need this border wall, and we need to get rid of these people that are such inherent threats and danger to the people of the United States. But yet since 2001, on 9/11, September 11th, 2001, which was the greatest terror attack in American history, you have, since then, no acts of terror committed by an undocumented immigrant. I will never call them illegal because a person is not illegal. They're not contraband.
Destro's checking in on the text line, and he says he's been saying this for 20 years. Your CIA and Defense Department arming America's enemies of tomorrow today.
Absolutely.
The U.S. government, by proxy, or possibly more actively created Al-Qaeda and ISIS.
Absolutely. Of course.
Anyone who doesn't believe this needs to have their head firmly buried in the sand.
Very true. Very true. Now think about this. You go back to September 11th, 2001. The greatest tragedy we've ever seen. That changed everything about America. The Patriot Act changed everything about America. Uh-huh. And now you have the politicians telling you, and currently Donald Trump telling you that you need this border wall, and for safety purposes, this and that. Okay, this he calls it a travel ban, but really it's a Muslim ban. Mm-hmm. And his supporters don't like to hear the fact that it's a Muslim ban, but I'm going to give you the facts behind it. You can't say that it's not a Muslim ban when the countries that are on the ban are 98 to 99% Muslim. So it is a Muslim ban. They're 98 to 99% Muslim. Mm-hmm. Now, since 2001, afterwards, there has never been an act of terrorism perpetrated by somebody that was undocumented, meaning like September 11th. Now, the majority of the hijackers from September 11th were from Saudi Arabia, who is not on the ban. They were excluded from the ban. And Trump signed one of the biggest arms deal in American history with Saudi Arabia.
Right.
So you mean to tell me the country that was responsible for the greatest terrorist attack in American history, they get rewarded with an arms deal, looser sanctions, we do business with them, and we arm them and keep them off of the restricted list, and then countries that have never committed an act of terror are on that list. Something's wrong.
Oh, yeah.
And then they're selling you this idea that you're not safe from people from these countries. And those people from those countries have never committed here in the United States. When you go and you look at the Pulse shooting, you look at San Bernardino, separate incidents, they're members. They're citizens, of the United States.
Yeah.
Citizens of the United States. They weren't undocumented. So this ruse that we're being sold here, that all of these people are settling in and they're the problem, it doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. The numbers are not there to back it up. It doesn't exist. And the previous administration, whether people want to know that, some of them don't know about it, but others choose to not believe it and let it resonate and let it sink in, is the fact that Obama, he was the deporter-in-chief. He had the largest amount of undocumented immigrants deported than any other standing American president. And they're telling you that you need more done. No, we were on our way. We're doing well with that. We don't need millions and millions and millions of wasted taxpayer dollars on a wall? For what? You think that that's going to stop undocumented immigration? A wall? Those are fantasy ideas. They're fantasy ideas. That's Disney Pixar shit.
Yeah, right.
Really. It's Disney Pixar shit. On top of the fact that conservationists have studied what it would do to certain species of birds and stuff like that. A lot of people don't give a shit. You know? When it comes to that stuff, those are the things that get me wound up because the warning signs are there. Studies are done. How long did we have the discussion about the Dakota Access Pipeline?
Yeah.
And now what happened? Did you see what happened in the last couple of weeks?
They're dripping hundreds of thousands of gallons of
Right.
oil.
And you know what Trump
everywhere.
supporters did?
Huh.
Oh, you can't blame anybody. That was the old part. There is no old part. Stop making excuses like that.
Right.
It just came from the part that was just finished prior to this. There was no old Dakota Access Pipeline.
Yep.
Stop that. Stop that.
Ruben from Houston checking in. He says Trump wants to decrease Bears Ears National Park 90% to open it up for drilling. He wants to close it. Decrease. Oh, okay, I got it. Decrease Bears Ears National Park to 90%. So we could drill in it.
Right. And not a lot of people know what I was just getting
Where's
to.
Bears Ears?
I'm not sure. He would have to tell you that.
Probably down around
There'd
there.
be some information I
Maybe
would
in
need
Houston.
from him.
Probably in Texas.
Another thing, going back to there, when they had the company that was putting he had stock in there, just like other billionaires.
Of course,
he had stock in there. So of course he's got personal interest, vetted in there, and that's why they're not doing anything and listening to the American people. And look at all these people there at Standing Rock that were sprayed with pepper spray and water
in the middle of winter.
Yeah, and people were just attacked and everything that happened there, and it was for this very purpose, and it actually happened. They have something tangible now and say, look, this is what we stood up for, and we had. This is what's alarming to me, man. This is what's so alarming to me. And think about this: in 10 months, we've had that incident in Standing Rock. And we had people arguing against it because of Trump. And look what happened. The results are there. We had the Charlottesville situation. And we were defending, when I say we, I'm saying certain sects of American people, were defending neo-Nazis and white supremacists that they were marching. And Trump stands up in front of America and says, oh, they had permits and they were fine people. And yet the NFL players who were peacefully, lawfully taking a knee, and it has nothing to do with veterans because Colin Kaepernick was asked by a veteran to actually kneel instead of sit. It's ridiculous. Right. We're picking and choosing here and defending things that we've literally had world wars about. Isn't that odd to people?
Very odd.
Isn't that odd to people?
Bears Ears National Park is in Utah. It's tribal lands. That's what Ruben is saying.
And it's amazing to me.
It's amazing to me, too.
I mean, we're walking.
A national park. It's probably gorgeous. Utah's gorgeous. I don't know if you've ever been to Utah. It's beautiful.
I haven't.
It's weird as far as the people and culture go, but as far as like scenery, it's gorgeous.
And now, I mean, it's like we're moonwalking. We're walking backwards, man. And I truly believe this. It's just my opinion, but it's based upon what I'm seeing and what's actually happening and the concerted efforts that are trying to be made, the attacks on the EPA, that the strides that were made over the last fucking 75 years in civil rights, everything that's trying to be rolled back, we're going backwards.
Oh yeah,
we're going backwards, man. We're completely going backwards. I mean, this guy's everything that Obama did, he's trying to make a concerted effort, all the way down to even conservation efforts.
The EPA.
He dismantled that.
Mm-hmm.
He dismantled that with Pruitt. I mean, but I'm just saying it's simple things like conservation acts and things that you would think no president would touch. And obviously it'd be a universal thing. He would just leave it alone. Like, you want to protect elephants and their tusks and keep their species, the numbers that are declining. You want to keep their numbers up and keep that species thriving, and big cats and everything like that. I mean, he's making even efforts in those departments to roll back things. It's just so much all at once, man. And it's I just don't see how people continue to applaud it. I had one girl, I have to say this, I had one female friend of mine who said on social media to me like a week ago, she said, I am officially out of the Donald Trump fan club. She was a huge supporter of his. Once the stuff happened with the elephants and the big cats, I mean, she's heavy into conservation, and preservation, and a total supporter of the EPA. She said, no more. I mean, so certain things are hitting and resonating with certain people. And again, I don't see how anybody at this point can't find at least one thing where they're saying to themselves, all right, this is a little over the top for me. A little bit over the top for me. But, hey, the material is constantly there.
It is.
And I have to make an announcement because I actually, my day job and my business beckons and calls. So I am going to be on just a little brief hiatus. I am not going to be back this Thursday, unfortunately, because I have a deadline with my business. So going to pick up next Tuesday and obviously next Thursday after that. But this week I have to obviously put my time and energy into the business and getting the bills paid. But I want to thank everybody that reached out today, everybody that joined the show, and my man Red and Destro and Ruben, everybody, from different parts of the United States, man. It's been a blast. And today's Super Tuesday, that all of the EC radio listeners, Sean Raz, the Matt Major Show with Phil Farda, Ease Beats and Biz. You're not the only white guy on the set anymore. So we got a long day of programming, man, and I could hear Matt Major and everybody in studio right now. So stick around for the Matt Major Show with Phil Farda up next.
Also want to remind your listeners you can listen to this podcast and the previous podcasts of Back Talk on demand
just don't think that
at DisruptionNetworks.com.
That's right. That's important because people know. I get this a lot. I want to close out by saying that really quick. A lot of people say to me, I missed you live. Everything is archived, and it's right on the app, and you could go there, and you don't miss a beat. You got every show, and you could listen to it at your leisure. So check out the app, download it, and stick around for the Matt Major Show with Phil Farda.
Farewell and adieu to you fair Spanish ladies.